It's 9 o'clock. Calling this meeting to order. We have a quorum present. We're going to have Ms. Jackson lead us in the prayer and the pledge.
Please stand. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for the beautiful day that you've promised today, the crisp weather that we need to be in December. Thank you for all that's gathered here today. Please be with commissioners today as we listen to the needs of our citizens and help us to make the best decisions for all parties. Watch over us this week and on into Christmas, and let us remember the true meaning of Christmas. In your Son, Jesus Christ's name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Consent agenda. The commission may request for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda will be considered in one vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Regular agenda. Subdivision plats. The Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. Preliminary plat of JCM Edition, Section 2. Request for approval of preliminary plat, part of Track 2, all of Track 3, Block 1, all of Block 2, and all of former Parkview Drive, Section 2, JCM Edition, located northwest of the intersection of Sunset Drive and YMCA Drive.
We will be taking item A and B together.
All right, I'll read B. First replat, Track 3, Block 1, Part 2 of Block 2, JCM Edition, Section 2, a request for approval of first replat of this Track 3, Block 1, part of Block 2, JCM Edition, Section 2, being 8.013 acres located near the northwest of the intersection of Sunset Drive and YMCA Drive.
Thank you. This preliminary plat and first replat, as you stated, is in JCM Edition, Section 2. It is located at the northwest intersection of YMCA Drive and Sunset Drive. The current zoning is heavy commercial and light manufacturing. The future land use is commercial, neighborhood, and open space within this area. It is within District 1 Tommy Hubert, and it is the Rio Vista neighborhood. The heavy outline of red is the prelim, and then as you can see, there's a little black area here. That's the replat. However, the replat, they are going to be asking for a 30-day extension, and so that will come back to you probably next month. We're working through some of the conditions on that one. So we'll primarily be looking at the prelim. However, we'll need two separate motions on prelim and then the replat. This is the proposed preliminary plat, and then, as you can see, the proposed replat also. This area is designated for commercial, neighborhood, and open space. The subject's plats do conform with the comp plan. The plats proposed is to facilitate construction of commercial development in this area, and specifically for the replat that you'll actually see again next month is for the construction of a skilled nursing facility, a nursing home, that a special permit was approved in October 21st, 2019. The conformity to the intent of the purpose statements within the comprehensive plan, these plats will provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development within the city, and the streets need a secure, safe, and functional system for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. City staff, we are recommend approval of the preliminary plat, JCM Edition, Section 2. A couple of notes on this one. This actually refers back to the replat. This preliminary plat must be approved before the replat can be approved in this area. Another note that prior to building permits, prepare and submit plans for approval illustrating the installation of fire hydrants. And future final plating will have additional infrastructure that's referring to the replat. And that's for the replat that they're going to be asking for a 30-day waiver on. Any questions? We'll have the proponent come up and formally ask for that 30-day waiver on the replat. Any questions for me?
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Ms. Paschal. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with SKG. We would request your consideration to table the consideration of the final plat until the next Planning Commission meeting. And would be happy to answer any questions you have on the preliminary plat.
Okay. Anyone have questions for Mr. Gully?
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Anyone else wishing to speak on this case, if you would, please come forward. And for the rest of the meeting, anyone that's speaking in public comment, if you please state your name and either address or single-member district. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone up here have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
Motion to approve, and do the.
Yeah, if you'll take two separate motions, we'll approve the preliminary plat. The second motion will be to accept the applicant's request for a 30-day waiver on the replat.
So I make a motion to approve the.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0.
Honor the request of the proponent for the 30-day extension.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant a 30-day extension for the filing of the replat. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Shriners Point preliminary plat. Request for approval of a preliminary plat for Shriners Point subdivision, being 27.237 acres located at the southwest corner of East 40th and Blum Street. You want me to also read the?
Yes, sir, please.
We also have Shriners Point Section 1, request for approval of a final plat within the Shriners Point subdivision, being 12.097 acres located at the southeast corner of East 40th Street and Blum Street.
Good morning, Hillary Bucher, Planning Manager. Again, we're looking at a preliminary and a final plat for this property. The preliminary plat is a little over 27 acres. The final plat is around 12. This is southeast of East 40th and Blum Street. The current zoning is RS1 with a neighborhood future land use in Tom Thompson's district in the Lakeview neighborhood. So again, just the same with Shelley's. If you'll see the red outline, that's the boundary of the preliminary plat. The black dotted line would be the boundary of the final plat. So this is the proposed preliminary plat. It creates 63 lots. It is has East 40th Street on the north and East 37th on the south. So you can see it's a 27 acres. It's a fairly large lot. There's one large lot here, one large lot there, and the rest are very small, looks like for single-family development. So this is the proposed final plat. It's the 12-acre piece to the top. You will see another case in regards to this property coming up. This is East 40th Street on the north, and then the Blum extension will run along that road. We are recommending approval. RS1 zoning is consistent with the neighborhood future land use. It's a continuation of the existing development around it being residential. The plat will provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city, and the streets will ensure safe and efficient vehicular and pedestrian circulation. Staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat of Shriners Point subdivision, subject to 4 conditions of approval. We have some minor corrections that correct the title block, We need to remove or correct the building setback lines, show the contour lines on the preliminary plat, and provide correct street names. We are recommending approval of the final plat of Shriners Point, Section 1, subject to 11 conditions of approval. 1 is the tax cert. 2, again, is to correct the building setback lines. 3 would be correct the street name to reflect East 40th Street. So currently it just says 40th, so it's a pretty minor correction there. Prepare and submit plans for East 40th. Once approved, construct the street or submit a financial guarantee. Currently, the street's 36 feet wide, so they could either expand it to 40, their incremental half would be 2 feet, or add a 4-foot sidewalk. Illustration of the dedication of 50-foot right-of-way for Blum, so they'll have to do that directly adjacent to the property. Prepare and submit plans for Blum. Again, that'll be a brand-new street, so they'll have those. Submit a drainage study and construct improvements as needed. Design and install sewer mains and service lines. And then 9 is design and install water mains and service lines. 10, ensure the internal streets and external streets meet city standard for fire apparatus access and provide fire hydrants as required. And then number 11 would be prepare plans for approval of an installation of sidewalks along East 40th and Blum Street. Does anyone have any questions? So again, there's 2 cases here. These can be, since they're read as one, they could be taken as one motion if you so choose, or they could be separate again.
You mind going back to the survey or
sir.
the site?
Oh, I'm going the wrong way, I'm sorry. You want
Okay.
the preliminary or the final?
That one's perfect.
Okay, yes, sir.
So we have a final in that area that's the north section of this tract of land.
Correct, yes, sir.
Where the entire area is being zoned for RS1, is that correct?
Currently, the zoning is RS1.
Okay.
So if they leave the lot as is and the zoning stays, they could build 1 home on this lot.
So what we're approving here is a plat for RS1 zoning for the entire tract.
Correct, yes, sir, currently.
Okay, perfect. Anyone have questions, staff?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bucher. All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this case, please state your name and your address or single-member district.
Carter Fentress Engineering, helping represent this plat. I can answer any engineering questions. Also have a team with me, Chad Decker, Michael Biggerstaff, and then Hunter Patterson with McDonald Company. So, with that.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Clay Hubbard. My wife and I live at 3721 Armstrong. We've lived there for 37 years. Our children were the 5th generations of Hubbard to live on that property. We have roughly 600 feet of boundary in the southeast corner of the property at issue today. And I am here today to state that my wife and I are profoundly against the rezoning of this property for the specific purpose of building a 156-unit apartment complex at this location. I am submitting to you today a petition with 53 names on it of people that live in the immediate area, which would include Armstrong, 40th, 39th, 37th, 8th Streets. These people are going to be affected by this apartment complex. 53 names here are against or in opposition to building, the rezoning
Sir.
this property.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is not the rezoning case, this is the plat. So if
To
you,
restate, replat?
it is the replat, so we're dividing up the land. So if you want to speak to that, that would be what this item currently is, not the rezoning.
And I want to,
In the
Well,
I want to clarify, Mr. Hubbard, what we're looking at right now is just a preliminary plat of this land. And the zoning that's proposed for this plat is single-family residential. So there's a
Kinda
separate
confusing to
case.
me.
There, it is confusing.
because eventually, I mean, you got to prove this first to eventually get this.
Well, there's a second case in which we singularly address, it looks like, the rezoning of a portion of this tract from single-family residential to high-rise multifamily residential. And that's case Z1919, and it is one of the last cases that we're going to hear this morning.
Okay, so that'll be where we come.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I was told, Sherry told me that I could come up now.
And he can come up and protest against the plaque itself.
Okay, absolutely.
We can do that.
Yes, sir.
So because eventually, no one's going to object to RS1 throughout the entire property,
Yes, sir.
throughout the entire 27 acres, but this specific 12 acres for multifamily is going to be opposed.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sorry for the. I'll
And that's,
come back.
and just to clarify, that's why I was making the clarification in the,
Okay.
in
So
the
we'll go-
initial about
so-
what we're approving with these cases.
Okay, so we'll wait for later in the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion or have comments? We're looking at only the plat.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay?
Just for clarification, are you approving the preliminary and final, or just one at a time? You could do both together if you so choose.
We'll do both together. Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary and final plats proposed by the staff. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 7-0 on both. Would it make sense to hear the rezone case now, since we're working on this?
That's entirely up to you as the chair, so you could.
Keep it going.
I think that's what I'd like to do. So we're going to jump to rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. Z19-19 Carter Fentress, public hearing consideration of a request for approval of a rezoning from the single-family residential RS1 zoning district to the high-rise multifamily residential RM2 zoning district on 12.097 acres generally located at the southeast corner of Blum Street and East 40th Street. Ms. Bailey.
Jerry Bailey, Principal Planner. And if you'll bear with me for just a minute, I need to get to that last item.
No problem.
Good morning, members of the Planning Commission. You have before you a rezoning request. It's a rezoning for Z1919 Carter Fentress. It's a rezoning from RS1 to RM, or high-rise multifamily 2. It's on the corner of East 40th Street and Blum Street. What is proposed is 156 units, 15 buildings. There are within the proposed buildings, there are 4 three-story buildings, and because of the three-story, their original application was for RM1, but they wanted to keep the three-story buildings, so that required an RM2. It's in District 2, Tom Thompson's district, and its neighborhood is Lakeview. You can see on the left that the proposed future land use for this area is neighborhood, and the present zoning is single family. Before you is the conceptual plan for what they're proposing. Excuse me. As I indicated, there are 15 buildings. They're all either 2-story buildings or the 4 3-story buildings. And RM2, The zoning itself, the original RM1 would allow 25 units per acre. The RM2 allows 35 units per acre. What's being proposed here is 13 units per acre. So there's a much less dense design to this particular multifamily project. There's a couple of pictures of the proposed site. That's the corner of East 40th and kind of Blum, where Blum would come in, and the kind of off area, Short Street. And this is the property that's just south of there. The property to be rezoned is the property in beige, and it is presently the one that you just approved for a large lot. We mailed out 32 notices. We received none in favor, and I passed out to you the 9 in opposition that we have received so far. The rationale, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify with the folks up here that we have several copies of the same
Yes.
documents here.
Everyone gets a copy.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Bailey, thank you.
The rationale for approval in this case, the rezoning that's requested before you is in conformance with the future land use. As I indicated before, the land use is intended to be neighborhood, and all residential matches that, whether it's single family or multifamily. It is consistent with the zoning ordinance, as I indicated before. If it's rezoned, it would allow the 35 units, and they're proposing only 13 units per acre. So the intensity is a less dense area. It is compatible with the surrounding area in that the existing units in the entire area is, after looking at it from staff's point of view, the entire area is a single-family and rural residential area, but most studies show that a mix of residential types within an area is a positive move, and in this case, it is believed to be healthy for the neighborhood. Changed conditions. The larger proposal has single family, not just the multifamily, the larger 27 acres, and a small area for storage units. So it's all part of a greater land use design. We believe that there is little or no effect on the natural environment on the area. We believe that East 40th can handle the traffic, and that Armstrong Street, which is about 1,000 feet to the east, can handle the increased traffic as a result of the multifamily units. Under community need, the affordable housing has been demonstrated in the recent study that was done in the city, and we noticed that all of the apartment complexes within the city have a very high occupancy rate, which indicates that the need is there. Under development patterns, we reviewed it and looked at the existing patterns. As we indicated before, the main development within the area is single family. Normally, you would place a multifamily on the edge of a single family and on a major collector street or a minor collector street. In this case, it is very close, as I indicated, to Armstrong. And we believe that multifamily in this area is reasonable. Staff is recommending approval of the rezoning from the single-family residential district to the RM2. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a couple. If you could go back to right there, rationale for approval number 4.
Yes.
Can you further explain what you're saying there, please? I don't understand the storage units.
Okay. It's not before you at this point in time, But the overall plan, when you looked at the entire 27 acres, had a multifamily at the top, had single-family lots at the bottom, and then off to the side was a small area that would have self-storage units that would provide additional storage space, because there's not any in the general area.
So would it be in the southeast quadrant of the plat that we're
Kind of the southwest of the
southwest?
overall, yeah.
Okay. And then my other question, you said they're seeking RM2 zoning,
Yes, sir.
but the density is only 13 units an acre.
Yes, sir.
Is the RM2 simply because they're asking for three-story structures?
That is the only reason, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me if this was zoned RS1, this 12-acre tract, how many units we would have on that land?
One,
Okay.
unless it was,
Yes, ma'am.
if
If it was divided into a standard subdivision, how many units would we have in this land?
I did some very quick general calculations, and I think somewhere around approximately 70, maybe 70 to 80, depending on how they were laid out. So that's very quick. I'm sorry we don't have more accurate numbers, but
So we're looking at essentially doubling the overall density from what would be the current zoning to the proposed use. Is that
essentially a little bit more than that.
maybe a
but
little bit more
yes,
than double?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions for the staff? All right. Thank you. We're going to open this up for public comment. Again, if you're speaking on this case in favor or against, if you could please state your name and address or single-member district. And if you could limit your comments to about 3 minutes. I fear that we may have several speaking here and like to get through it.
Morning, Erica Carter, Carter Ventures Engineering, the engineer on this project as a whole. I'd be happy to answer any engineering questions. I also have Hunter Patterson, who can answer more towards what types of buildings. They're the people that are actually McDonald Company putting it in. And then Michael Biggerstaff and Chad Decker with New Home, who are kind of in partnership with them, so.
Do you know if there were any public meetings held in association with this proposal?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Morning again. I'd like to say thank you for moving this up on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and get started. Thank you. Again, my name is Clay Hubbard. My wife and I live at 3721 Armstrong. We've lived there for over 37 years, and our children are the fifth generation of Hubbards that live on that property. We have roughly 600 feet of boundary in the southeast corner of the property at issue today. And I'm here to state that I'm here today to state that my wife and I are profoundly against the rezoning or rezoning of this property for the specific purpose of building a 156-unit apartment complex at this location. I am submitting to you today a petition with 53 names on it of people that live in the immediate area, which would include 40th Street, Armstrong, 39th, 37th, and 8th Streets. These people will be affected by this apartment complex. They are all in opposition of this. Thank you. I have canvassed the circumference of this property, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I want to tell you this morning that I have found no one, and I do mean no one, in this neighborhood that says, yes, this is a good idea, build an apartment complex here. As a result of this rezoning, if this rezoning is approved and this project goes forward, what will actually be happening is this apartment complex will be imposed. I think imposed is a good word, imposed in a neighborhood that does not want it. My goal this morning is not to be specific about drainage issues, traffic issues, sewer and water utility issues, and security concerns. My goal this morning is to get you guys to empathize with us and see this from our point of view. I don't know where you live. Some of you may live in Paul Land, Green Acres, the Bluffs, Bentwood, wherever. I just want you to think about your own personal houses, your own personal homes, and think of yourself out in your backyard and you've been there for a long time, and then all of a sudden, in your backyard, 156 unit apartment complex, 400 people, 200 cars. That's something to think about. I think of an apartment complex like this as a commercial concern, and I think it just doesn't belong in a neighborhood like this because apartments are in fact for profit and people are going to make money from it. I offer a possible solution. After talking to all these people, no one is objected to putting houses in this area, breaking it up into third acre, half acre lots, whatever, and putting houses, but not an apartment complex. After you've heard from all the opposition this morning, I hope you can understand from our perspective why we oppose this zone change. And I'd like to say thank you for volunteering to be on this board.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard.
Good morning. My name is Diana Mireles. I'm sorry. I live on 41st Street. I'm right in the cul-de-sac in the middle, and my concern is, what do y'all plan on doing with the multifamily people coming with like the children and like the school district? How y'all plan to like split that up in the sense of like so many kids going into one school at one time is what my concern is. 'Cause my son goes to Goliad, and that's literally the only elementary there that's in that district. So what do y'all plan on doing in that sense? Like, I mean,
I don't have a direct answer for that, except that
bringing
if this
in
property is
multifamilies
zoned to that,
and bringing more children into that area is going to
Yes.
cause chaos with so many kids that go into one school at one time. Like Goliad already has like 4 different fourth grade teachers. It's just going to add on more
overcrowding.
teachers.
Yeah. I don't,
And I don't think we could address the school district's questions. That would have to be something brought up with them if the property was rezoned.
And in the sense, like, for me, I grew up in an apartment complex 15 years, and it doesn't bring nothing but chaos. It brings bad people. It doesn't bring nothing good to it. I mean, for me, I've had personal experience with it. I mean, I got up, I got out. I mean, made sure to get out of that area because, I mean, I lived there since I was 18. Like, 18 was when I got out. So I don't know what else to say, but it's not a good idea for that apartment complex to get there, to be built there. Houses is fine. I mean, single-family homes, people are there to take care of their homes. And apartment complex coming in there, it's not their personal thing, and they're not going to take care of it like someone would if it was their house. So that's my issue with the whole deal. Like, why bring in an apartment complex, and if it's not going to bring nothing but trouble and issues? Because I personally, from experience, know what it's like growing up in an apartment complex for 15 years. So I don't see it any beneficial except for financially for everybody that's gonna gain from it.
okay. Thank you for your time.
Morning. I'm James McWhorter. My wife and I live at 3939 Armstrong. I've lived in that property since 1968. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the additional traffic coming down 40th. Armstrong already is a racetrack. If you don't believe it, just get out there at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the evening. You can't hardly get on the road. And all of this traffic, or most of it's going to be coming down 40th, which is, my house is on the corner of 40th. And it's just horrific. And the second issue there is, they were talking about running sidewalks and stuff down 40th. I've already given up 20 feet of my land to widen that street, and it's not wide enough for a sidewalk now. Am I gonna have to give up more land for this to happen? I'm strictly against that.
Yes, sir.
And I concur with everything that Mr. Hubbard said, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I did want to kind of tackle the sidewalk issue, and maybe this will help, but the sidewalk along 40th that we will be putting in will only be along our property here. So there won't be any need to get any more land that way.
Thank you.
My name is Julia Sanchez. My parents and my kids and I will be living at 3825 Armstrong. The reason they purchased that property is because it wasn't overcrowded, and we haven't even got to live there yet, and y'all already planning on putting apartment complexes, which is kind of a little bit of concern because of the safety and the traffic, and we want to live in a quiet neighborhood to where it's not so much overcrowding.
Thank you.
My name is Nancy Salcedo, and I actually live on 40th Street. We purchased that house 3 years ago, and the reason we wanted to move in there was because of we just wanted to be a part of, like, not too far from the city, but the point is that where I live at, there's a road right in front of our street, and I don't know if maybe I have a question. When it rains, the water comes and it goes all the way to our yard, and I live on 1021 East 40th Street. So there's a lot of water in there. When you're rezoning, are you gonna make a place where the water goes? Because my yard already gets flooded, and the house beside me gets flooded as well. And I wanna know, how are you gonna fix that? How are you gonna work on that? I mean, we have a property where we have goat. I love my property, and the reason I got it was because there wasn't a lot of, our backyard, it was trees, we see deers all the time there, and I enjoy it. And this is really not gonna work out for me and my family. My concern is I'm sorry, this is my first time and I don't never speak in public like this. But it's like the reason we went in there is because we have a lot of privacy. And I'm sure most of you, I don't know, like Mr. What's his name? He just spoke. Hubbard had just said, how would y'all like to purchase a house to move and live in comfortably, and then somebody comes in your backyard, in your house, and starts moving and remodeling and doing things? Like, how would that make y'all feel? I purchased that home because we love the privacy, and we have, very good, nice, peaceful people that live in our neighborhood. And already when we get on Armstrong, the people over there already speed, and there's so much traffic already, and how are you gonna put lights in there or something? Because there's so many accidents on Armstrong because we're already having a hard time, on the 40th Street in Armstrong. How are you gonna work with that? That's my concern. And it's just, just a thought that you have, because all the flood goes on 40th Street, and I'm not sure, but I think they were saying the entrance was gonna be on 40th Street, where there's a little dip like that, where all the water goes there, and when it rains a lot for 2 to 3 days, the water goes to the homes. How are you gonna fix that? That's my concern.
Thank you.
Peggy McQuarter, and I'm also nervous. I live at 3939 Armstrong Street. My husband spoke earlier, but I do want to say, y'all presented that all the units around there are single-family units.
Yes, ma'am.
Who in the world would think that we would want a 3-story apartment building in our area? I have no clue. No one would want to accept that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Morning, again, Erica Carter, Carter Fentress Engineering. I wanted to address the flooding. We have planned a detention pond through here and a park that we will have to, by city rule, regulations, catch any excess water coming off of this site. There is a drainage way, like they said, kind of like this maybe. But our intention is to not put any more in there that isn't already going there.
Okay. Thank you.
My husband and I live on East 40th and Blum, so this is right in my backyard. We put up a privacy fence for a reason, privacy. A 3-story building, they're gonna be looking right down into my backyard. The traffic already, we've had, I don't know how many cars blowing right through our backyard fence, ending up in my backyard. So the traffic already is crazy. There's a stop sign there that nobody knows what stop means. They just run right through it, run into my backyard. We've been there 20 years, and it's been quiet. And like the other lady said, that field was full of deer. You could see deer coming, walking through, you know, and the traffic with the high school where it's at, you can hardly get in and out when school is in session. You put all of these units here, you're not gonna be able to get in and out for people like us that have to go to work.
Thank you.
Hunter Patterson, 1289 Thompson Drive, Kerrville, Texas. As to the question as to why to build these apartments, frankly, it's because San Angelo needs housing now. There's been multiple housing studies that highlight the desperate need, and we're ready to build right now. We'll put these in within this next year, and they will be placed into service relatively soon. With the McDonald companies, we have an extensive, great resume in San Angelo. I'd recommend going to our places, River Place, visits at Red Creek. All those apartment complexes has actually not decreased the property values, but increased property values in nearby. Frankly, this lot as it is now is a dumping ground. It's caught on fire once. It's been dishwashers are dumped, dryers have been dumped there. We're planning on going in and sprucing up this part of the this area of San Angelo. I'd recommend any of y'all to go look at the traffic. Obviously, traffic's going to be heavy in the mornings, everybody going to work and everybody coming back around 5. But if you go anytime during the day, hardly anyone's on those roads. Preliminary traffic studies have said that this is not going to be impacted. And with that, I'm answer any questions y'all may have.
Have you guys had any meetings with the neighborhood folks?
No, sir.
To discuss this project?
But we will do that.
Okay.
We're not opposed to that.
Well, there's been a lot of opposition, and I think it would be prudent of you guys to maybe do that. We don't, anything that's done on that land, it would be just neighborly to talk about it before you guys jump forward, so.
Absolutely.
All right. Anyone else have questions or comments? Thank you. Thank you for the time. All right, I'm going to close public comment. So, thoughts or recommendations or a motion? Looking at this case personally, the biggest concern I would have is just the density. And a 3-story apartment complex in the middle of a residential neighborhood is a lot of density. So, I would also think that you would want to visit with the neighborhood folks and get them comfortable with the project before you move forward with something like this. So those are my thoughts. Anyone else have thoughts or want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the request.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny the request. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So we have 6-1. All right. We're going to go back to replats. Preliminary plat, Denny Addition. Request for approval of a preliminary plat for Denny Addition being 5.005 acres located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Buchanan Street and Roosevelt Street. Ms. Bailey.
Sherry Bailey again, and again, if you'll bear with me for just a minute.
No problem.
Well, and if you'll go ahead and read the item F
Oh,
as
sure.
well.
Yeah, both of them.
Denny Addition, Section 1. Request for approval of a final plat of Denny Addition, Section 1, being 4.665 acres located at the northeast corner of Buchanan and Roosevelt, and a variance from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 30 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet for Buchanan Street, an urban local street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we're, as you indicated, taking both of these together, the preliminary plat and the final plat for a portion of the site. The site is located at Roosevelt and Buchanan Street, and it's where those two streets diverge from each other. The zoning there is RM1, which is multiple family 1, and RS1. The future land use in the area is neighborhood, and this is in District 3, Mr. Thomas's district. It's Fort Concho East neighborhood. You can see the proposed preliminary plat on your left. There are listed 3 lots, Lot 1, Lot 2, and a smaller lot, which is across Buchanan, which is included in this area. And then the proposed final plat is Lot 1 and Lot 2. The owner of this property has been consolidating pieces of property, leftover pieces, abstracts, for a number of months, trying to put together a piece of property in that area, which has a view of the river, which is basically a single-family area, or there's a multi-family apartment complex right across the street. Her intent is to build on the Lot 1, and she has Lot 2 fenced, and her intent was always to keep her 4 horses in that area. As you can see in the proposed final plat, it is just those 2 lots. It does not include the little Lot 1, which is across Buchanan, and she owns the property that's already platted then to the west. In conformity with the comprehensive plan, it's designated neighborhood. Both the subject plat and the preliminary plat conform to that designation. As I indicated, it's for the owner's home and for pasture land, and the general use is compatible with the surrounding uses. Conformity with the intent and purpose statements. The plats will provide for the orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city. In this case, we are getting the dedication of Buchanan Street, which you're aware of, has been built by the city, but we did not have the dedication, and we are now getting the dedication of Buchanan. The variance being asked for in this case is granting a variance that would allow the 30-foot pavement width of the Buchanan Street that, as I indicated, was built by the city in lieu of the required 40 feet. And staff is recommending approval of that variance, looking at the entire, as is engineering, and looking at the entire area. Buchanan seems to carry the traffic very well in the area. We're not increasing the density in the area. And there, if you look at the streets moving to the east, there are a number of streets that carry traffic from the north to the south. So we feel that Buchanan is sufficient for the near future, for sure. As I indicated, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat with one condition. We're asking that Lot 5 that was labeled that little small lot, Lot 5, be relabeled to Lot 3. Our notes on this is, in the future, additional infrastructure may be required when the final platting occurs of blocks 2 and 3. And fire hydrants and fire department access may need to be provided depending on the proposed layout of any buildings that are going to be built, in this case, the single-family home. And staff is also recommending approval of the final plat with 2 conditions of approval. Prior to the plat recordation, provide a copy of the tax certification. And second, prior to plat recordation, install water and wastewater service lines to serve the proposed home. Are there any questions?
Anyone have questions for Ms. Bailey? Thank you. We're going to open it up for public comment.
Russell Gully, SKG Engineering, Single Member District 3 for this specific property. Be happy
Mr. Gully.
to answer any questions, and really want to thank staff. This area is kind of a mess and trying to figure out and deal with. Staff's been great to work with and come up with some solutions that really, I think, address a lot of needed and get some platting in Buchanan dedicated to the city and stuff. So we would ask your approval of the preliminary and final plat with the variances as requested.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Gully?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this case, please come forward.
Elise Denny, and I just wanted to thank everybody in the planning area for all of the hard work and efforts that they've put into making this come to fruition, because I really appreciate it, and they've gone above and beyond, including engineering and what have you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion or have thoughts?
2 or 1?
I think one. One motion?
Yes, you can do one motion for both of them.
Make a motion to approve both cases.
And grant the variance?
Yes, and grant that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the plats with the variance for the right-of-way width of Buchanan?
It's actually the paving width.
Paving width, excuse me, paving width of Buchanan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0 in favor. Related comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of comprehensive plan amendments and rezonings. COSA Sunrises Trails, CP 19-03 COSA. Public hearing and consideration of amendment to the City of San Angelo Comprehensive Plan, changing certain lands from the commercial and neighborhood future land uses to the neighborhood commercial future land use, being 30.767 acres located between South Bryant Boulevard, Kimry Lane, and Ben Ficklin Road. Do I also need to read the next case?
Yes.
Amendment to PD 06-05 Sunrises Trails, public hearing consideration of a request for approval of rezoning from Ranch and Estate Zoning District to Planned Development Zoning District to expand the existing PD 06-05 boundary to allow for a new ropes challenge course and accessory structures associated with the existing daycare therapeutic horse riding facility being total of 11.074 acres located at 5185 and 5191 South Bryant Boulevard.
Morning, Planning Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Principal Planner. Similar with the other cases, we're going to combine these, and you can make one motion or two. Maybe better just to do two motions, just because one's a comp plan and includes more physical land, and then the PD is just for one portion of the comp plan amendment, but that'll be up to you. But we'll present them together. So the comprehensive plan is for 30.767 acres between Ben Ficklin Road, South Bryant Boulevard, and Kimry Lane. And the PD is for Sunrises to expand. They had come in last month for a major site plan expansion. And we realized afterwards there was approximately 150 feet of a zip line area that extends from those towers, where the ropes course is. And that zip line area was outside of their PD boundary. So the rezoning today will allow them to expand northward on land they already have and go from ranch and estate to PD. And then as we were doing our review, we realized that in addition to that, a comp plan amendment would allow the rezoning to move forward, but also some of the other areas here, including the church lands and a COSA property at the north, also didn't have compatible comprehensive plan designation. So we believe that a neighborhood center would basically clean this up, allow Sunrises to expand, and also allow the other businesses and the COSA property, if they ever wanted to rezone to commercial in the future, they could do that. So this is what we're looking at today. It's in District 1, Tommy Hebert in the Glenmore neighborhood. So this is the comprehensive plan area. So as you can see, the front half was commercial and the rear of these were neighborhood. When we did the original plan in 2003, we'd actually done commercial all the way to the back. And then as residential development happened, there was a bit of a concern, and so we essentially scaled it back. And this doesn't mean that we can't have commercial, but it allows each case to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So we believe that neighborhood center would be the appropriate designation. It's not as intense as commercial, and certainly not industrial. It would allow some commercial development on a case-by-case, including Sunrises. This is the zoning boundary, so the PD is just for Sunrises. As you know, they came in last month to do the ropes course in the back here. That major site plan amendment didn't trigger a rezoning because it was already zoned. It was just the site plan component. Now that this zip line area is extended into the ranch and estate, we need to rezone this back portion too from ranch and estate to PD as well. These are some of the pictures. You've seen some of these before. This is north and south on Ben Ficklin. This is Mosaic, and this is Sunrises. This is the church property that's immediately north of Sunrises, Word of Life Assembly and Sold Out Ministries. And then this is the COSA lands that are furthest to the north. So all of this will be part of the comprehensive plan, but the zoning will only be for Sunrises. These are some of the structures that were already approved before: the trail riding area, the lean-to building, the existing covered arena, and then these are the tower structures in the back. So extending from the tower structures going this way, this is the zip line area. This is now looking north. So these cables essentially run outside of the PD boundary, and this is what we're doing to clean this up, is just going to be for the zip line area. There's no other commercial development, no other buildings, no other structures in this expansion that you're looking at today except for the zip line cables. So for the comp plan amendment, 19 notifications were mailed. We received one back in favor from this property owner down here. And then for the PD, we sent out 18 notifications, smaller boundary, one in favor within 200 feet and one opposed, which is just outside the 200 feet. I've provided you with those letters. So this, the site concept plan that is part of the PD. So with the PD, it's the zoning plus the concept plan. So this is the latest concept plan. All of these buildings were approved back in between 2006 and then 2017. They added the trail course in here, and then just this year they've added the ropes course in the back. So as you can see, it's this portion of the zip line area that's outside of the PD boundary. So the new PD expansion area is the gray. on here. We want to put a condition of approval. We're sensitive to the residents that live behind here, and so consistent with last month, now that they're expanding up here, we'd like to have tall trees that are at least 40 feet high at time of maturity, spaced out evenly here, and this would provide some additional buffering. There's privacy fencing, but obviously, even though the ropes course is probably back about 200 feet, still it can be somewhat visible, so the trees would provide that additional coverage. So just a quick summary of what the original PD requirements were and what the new requirements will be added on to that. So since 2006, the allowed uses are a daycare, the therapeutic horse riding, and the administrative offices. So that essentially has stayed since 2006. The underlying zoning is within the PD is office commercial, so there's no height restriction on that. That's why we wanted to plant the trees. Accessory horse riding arena with 32 parking stalls allocated to this use, and an accessory caretaker's residence, which was never built, but is showing on the plan. So the expansion of this will include the 1.6 acres where the zipline area is, and we'll also memorialize everything else as well, just so we have one big PD zoning boundary, which makes more sense. The additional uses will be the ropes challenge course and the related accessory structures. So if they want to come back in the future and add another zip line or a ropes course, they will have to revise their concept plan. If it's something very small, like they have in the back, like a short ropes course, like, you know, some little platform, we could probably do that administratively. But anything big, like those tall ropes courses or the zip lines, will have to come back again. So there will be a mechanism for the public. And then the additional condition, prior to any future development and or building permits on the properties, the applicant shall submit a site plan to the planning director delineating a minimum of 15 trees at least 40 feet tall at full maturity along the portion of the rear property lines immediately west and south of the tall ropes and zip line course to provide screening from the adjacent residential uses. And that's essentially those trees there. So staff's rationale for approval, we believe the comp plan and the zoning are compatible with the overall plans and policies. The neighborhood center designation will recognize the underlying PD zoning. The commercial use is already in the area, includes the church, and the PD will recognize the existing commercial uses on the Sunrisa's property, including the zip line. It will be consistent with the zoning ordinance. The new PD concept plan will comply with all of the PD zoning standards. They did get an alternative parking plan that allowed, they were short like 3 spaces, so they've already got that done. And compatible with the surrounding area. The condition for the additional trees will provide additional buffering. Change conditions. So that back area that I was explaining is ranch and estate. Since Sunrisa owns all of it and it's a commercial business already, staff's confident that will never be redeveloped as ranch and estate or put a house there. So we believe this is probably the best fit since they already own the property. At some point they were going to expand anyway. So here we are. And I think with the trees and with the requirement to come back again to Planning Commission if they ever altered their plan, this would give the public another opportunity to review anything new that they wanted to propose. No effect on the natural environment. There's no impervious cover. It's just the structure. We believe there's a community need. Sunrisa's will continue with this ropes course to provide services to disabled children and adults. And that justification letter is in your package as well. And finally, no anticipated changes to existing development patterns. So staff recommends approval of the comprehensive plan amendment, CP 1903, to change the future land use from neighborhood and commercial to neighborhood, it should be neighborhood center, on the subject properties being a total of 30.767 acres, and approval of the rezoning from the ranch and estate zoning district to the planned development PD zoning district to expand the PD 06 boundary to allow for a new ropes challenge course, accessory structures associated with an existing daycare, and therapeutic horse riding being a total of 11.074 acres, subject to previous standards in the original PD and the one additional standard. And that's the one I've already mentioned to you. Just a note, this additional standard will supersede the same condition that we had last month when we did the site plan, because the new zoning will cover the same boundary as that, as well as that additional acreage. So that condition for the trees now will include that area as well as the expanded area. So everything adjacent to residential will have to plant those trees. And this concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
What was that? You said, think on your one more page. One after that one, Jeff, two after.
Go forward.
Go, okay, right there.
Okay.
So it says neighborhood commercial. So what should it be?
Because of the inconsistency with the zoning ordinance category is neighborhood commercial, but in the future land use, when they wrote it 20 years ago, they call it neighborhood center. In most cases, neighborhood commercial goes with neighborhood center, but to be technically correct, it should be neighborhood center. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I'm going to open this up for public comment.
Jeremy Vincent with Boys Ranch and Sunrises, and I would encourage you to go along with staff and approve this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. I guess we need to take separate motions. One to approve or deny the comprehensive plan rezone change, and the other for the PD. Would that make sense with you guys?
Again, you can do them both together or separately, either way.
Okay.
I have a question for you, Jeff.
Yes.
On one of the papers that we looked at, they were asking about additional parking next to their homes. There is no additional parking, is that correct?
That's correct. Let me go back really quickly to the map to explain. So I believe it's one of the residents on this side that has a house that faces Ben Ficklin. Their worry was that they would use this flag area and have an exit there, or possibly put parking in this area. And so they were worried about, I believe, as I understood the letter, they're worried about additional traffic coming out. That won't be the case. The parking lot in the front will service Sunrises, and I guess as they have guests that want to go to the back, they'll just be escorted by staff. But everything will come off of this side of South Bryan and not on Ben Ficklin.
It was owner number 9. I don't know where your slides are for that, but.
Let me go back. Yes.
So let's go back. Do you mind going back to that concept? Okay, right there. So it is clear within the PD that they cannot use the area that we're rezoning from ranch and estate for parking.
Well, right now, it's zoned ranch and estate, so technically, until today, they wouldn't be able to use it for parking. That's correct.
And it's rezoned.
When it's rezoned, in theory, they could use it for parking, but they would need to submit a revised concept plan.
Parking is not part of the PD that's being approved.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You could make a specific condition if you believe that parking should not be directly behind those homes. That's part of the plan development process, is if we need to add specific stipulations.
Okay. Thank you. You guys want to tackle these in separate motions or together? I think separate makes sense, since it's multiple owners that are impacted by the change to the comprehensive plan amendment.
Make a motion to approve CP 1903 as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve the comprehensive plan amendment, CP 19-03. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 7-0. So now we're down to the amendment to the plan development, 06-05.
Move to approve rezoning from ranch and estate to plan development with the condition that the expanded boundary not include parking in the PD.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'd like to go back to that site plan. So the motion and the second is to rezone the ranch and estate land into the PD, but to not allow parking in that area.
And if you want to be even more specific, you could say within the expanded 1.6 acres, that's what it is.
Okay?
I think that's what I said.
Okay.
Okay.
Within the expanded 1.6 acres.
Okay.
So, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Rezoning. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. PD 1909, Favory,
sir.
Public hearing and consideration of request for approval of a rezoning from the General Commercial Heavy Commercial Zoning District to the PD Zoning District to allow for a multifamily housing development with an associated management office and storage units and an existing telecommunication tower facility being 2.15 acres located between East Avenue D, South Oaks Street, East Washington Drive, and Orient Street.
Good morning again, Planning Commissioners, Jeff Fisher. So this is a planned development on 2.15 acres, and it's the quadrant you see here between Avenue D to the north, Oaks to the east, Washington to the south, and Orient to the west. It's a rezoning from the CGCH zoning district to a PD to allow a multifamily complex. It's essentially duplexes, so it'll be 20 buildings, and each building will have 2 units inside, so a total of 40 units. It's District 3, Harry Thomas, and the Fort Concho neighborhood. The future land use is commercial, and the zoning right now is CGCH. So the applicant had approached us about 3 or 4 months ago, and we met and talked about some of the options for them. Originally, it was discussed about doing a conditional use, but we were worried about the heavy commercial and also possibly allowing some flexibility in the standards for them. So the PD was what we had agreed on. The PD, essentially, why not just do a straight rezoning or a conditional use? The PD will allow reduced setbacks facing Oaks and Orient to 0 feet. Normally, it's 25 feet. This is a unique property because it's got 4 sides on it, so there's essentially 4 front yards. And if you look at the development pattern along Oaks, most of the commercial businesses already there have 0-foot setbacks. So this is just more eyes on the street, having buildings a bit closer, having the parking sort of in the back, and it's better aesthetically, and most importantly, because it's so close to the Fort Concho historical neighborhood. So these are just some photos that we took of the neighborhood. So there's actually a bike lane going up and down Oak Street right now. This is west at Fort Concho. And this is west of the subject property. So it's 6 quadrants. Let me just pull ahead here to the plan. So there's 6 quadrants. There's an existing Verizon tower that was already approved by conditional use on the northwest corner. So what the applicant wants to do is continue to allow that, since it's already commercially zoned, that portion. Allow the duplex units here. So this was platted into 6 lots a couple of years back. So each quadrant will have a total of 10 units. So it'll be on each quadrant you'll have 3 duplex buildings, 1-bedroom units, and then, or excuse me, 2-bedroom units, and then you'll have some smaller 1-bedroom units here as well. So there'll be basically 10 units here, 10 here, 10 here, and 10 here for a total of 40. This southwest quadrant will be used as a management leasing office for the complex. So it'll be under a single management structure, and then the Verizon tower is existing here. So the applicant has provided this concept plan. So as you can see, the buildings will be at 0 feet, closer to the street. The other reason for the PD is on the commercial side and on the management office side, the applicant was concerned about security. So this allows them to put a fence higher than 4 feet in the front yard, since again, you've got 4 streets, so 4 frontages. So there'll be an 8-foot fence along this side of the leasing office and tower site, and then along the residential sides in between here and here on the management office, so people can see it. This won't be higher than 6 feet on this side. My understanding is the fencing on this side will be some sort of wrought iron or other similar alternative. Only this area here will be a solid screen metal fence. So you'll be able to see through the fencing on the residential side, which is what we want. We want to be able to see the buildings. Yes.
Sorry,
No.
if you're, yeah. So we're looking at a 0-foot setback only on Oaks
On Oaks and on Orient.
and on Orient?
That's right. I should have meant to say, so this area in here will be for self-service storage units. So he'll have storage units here along with the tower, and then the leasing office on this side.
Thank you.
Okay. So staff is recommending approval for the following reasons. The multifamily development provides a transition between the single-family residential area to the southwest. So once you start leaving Oaks and you go south, you've got a housing, mainly single-family homes in there. And then as you go east and north, you've got commercial. So we believe that, and I'll go over some of the statistics in a minute, we believe this is a good area for multifamily, just given that it's close to downtown and close to Fort Concho. It's not anywhere close or immediately in the middle of a single-family neighborhood. It's close to commercial, so it provides a transition. It's consistent with the zoning ordinance. We're proposing the underlying RM1 zoning standards, which fit for a development like this. So that'll allow up to 2 stories, and the density will be under what's actually allowed. So, for example, the current density in that area would allow up to 53 units, and they're only proposing 40. So they'll only about 75% of what's actually allowed. The floor area ratio is 0.46, so just under half of the site covered, and the maximum floor area ratio in an RM1 is 0.75, so they're well under 75% coverage. They're only at 46% coverage. So they meet all of the other setbacks, and then the PD will allow the 0 feet on Oaks and on Orient. It's compatible with the surrounding area. I provided with you some illustrations. Let me see if I can go ahead here. So I've handed those out to you, and because the PD is only approving the site plan, I didn't include it on here, but I have given you what the applicant's given me, and this is just very conceptual. The elevations will reflect Fort Concho and have some sort of stone or synthetic stone and stucco on the sides that face Oaks Street, and so we believe that will be in keeping. We will review all that as part of the urban design review process, and that will be a condition of approval.
Does that have to go through historical or anything since it's across from Fort Concho?
It wasn't designated historical, but in keeping with that area, through the urban design review, the applicant has been working with us on that. And again, those are very conceptual renderings, so I didn't want to mislead the public into thinking that was being approved today, because it wasn't, but I passed those out for your convenience. I want to just quickly go over the community need portion. So 2019 ResIntel study has called for more affordable housing in the area close to downtown. And just to go over it quickly, San Angelo has projected another 6% in housing in general over the next 5 years. Duplexes were specifically mentioned as a housing category that there would be a shortage of, particularly for lower income. They mentioned 6,472, so about 6,500 renter households were burdened with the additional costs. So there's obviously more people that are renting than that, but that number to cover that shortfall. And they also mentioned in that study, another study that was done a few years back, calling for about 600 more affordable housing units downtown. Now, this is not exactly in the CBD. It's about 3 blocks south of the CBD, but I think that 40 units, it's not an oversupply where they're trying to jam 300 units, but we think that 40 is probably a good number and will provide some additional affordable housing in that neighborhood. No changes to anticipated street patterns, development. There's one access, at least from each side, that'll be secured at night, so they'll be able to drive through. There's also additional accesses for parking if they want to park their vehicles or visitors. 11 notices were mailed out. We didn't receive any in favor. We did receive one opposed, though, from this business owner over here, and I've provided that to you. And they've just referenced some concerns about the housing type and traffic and things like that. Staff is recommending approval of a rezoning from the CGCH to the PD zoning district to allow multifamily housing development with associated management office and storage units and an existing telecommunication tower facility, subject to 5 conditions of approval. So compliance with the underlying RM1 zoning, except for the front yard setback, which can go up to 0 feet, a fence height of up to 6 feet on the duplex lots, and a maximum fence height of 8 feet on the other 2 lots where they have the management office and the tower. The overall site use shall be consistent with the approved concept plan, approval of an urban design review, so that's when we'll look at the building elevations. Intermodal containers cannot be used as permanent structures. We found a container out there and also in other developments, and also the concern with the storage units. The storage units will also look nice as part of the project. And finally, any exterior lighting shall be shielded and no light trespass on the surrounding properties. And this concludes staff's presentation. Any questions or comments?
Yes, the 8-foot fence. Why are they putting an 8-foot fence on the west side of this site? Why not 6?
Right. So because of the commercial nature over here, I think the concern was that the tower, now the tower under our standards requires 7 feet anyway. It doesn't necessarily require the fence along the property lines because right now it's considered a front yard and you can't go higher than 4. The applicant's here to address that. My conversation with him was that they just wanted additional security.
The 0 lot line on South Oaks, everything else has a setback all the way down South Oaks. So this will be kind of jutted out to the lot line, correct?
Yes. So if you drive down that area, you'll see some of the commercial buildings to the north and south. And they may not be exactly 0 feet, but a lot of the older historical part of town, they built them closer. So we just believe that would be better for us and have more aesthetically pleasing. And then they'd still have a lot of room in the back for parking. That's what they've done.
There's commercial at the southeast corner of Oaks and Washington that is probably 0 lot line or close. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I'm going to open it up for public comment. If you wish to speak on this case, please state your name and your address or single-member district.
Hi, I'm Mickey Favory, and I'm in Harry Thomas's district. I bought this property about 4 years ago, and I've toyed up and down, trying to figure out what to do with it. Right now, it's a vacant lot and has been since there was a plumbing company there 15 years ago. I bought it knowing that it was not part of the historic district and any concerns with Fort Concho. But I'm very well aware and plan on making it compatible with Fort Concho. The 0 lot line that I'm requesting does keep in line with the rest of the neighborhood, and it allows me to have the density that I need to be able to make a living at it. I mean, I have to put so many on it. It also provides basically a demarcation fencing point between the right-of-way, the street, and then Fort Concho. The 6 to 8 foot fence, I would like a taller fence on Orient just to keep that area separate. Can I draw on this, Jeff?
Yes, please.
All right. I want 8 foot right here too. Did you address that? I think you did. Yeah. So to keep the leasing office and the Verizon tower separate from the residential side of it.
Okay.
And it was just consistency in the fencing. Would 6 foot work? Probably would. But I want to. There's a 7 foot fence internally inside anyway, so 8 foot fence would hide it.
Okay.
Jeff's worked with me quite a bit on what to actually do with this, and I believe it's going to be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
What's the total number of units, Mickey?
40.
40.
Yeah, and they're duplexes. They're not.
Okay.
They're no more than 2-story tall.
Okay.
Thank you, Mickey.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case?
support the building based on the accessibility, and that we understand that the applicant is planning to put full fire sprinklers in.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one clarification, because I don't know if it was in the conditions, but, and I talked to Mickey about this area between here, here, and here, and I think he's agreeing to that, wouldn't be, this area here wouldn't be up to 8 feet. I believe this one would have to be non-opaque, just because this is a management office, so if people are driving by this way, then they can, for the residents, they can see that, and I think he's agreed to that. So we can word the condition, I believe, that just take that out, notwithstanding the front yard area facing East Washington for that lot.
Okay. Mr. Coleman, just to clarify, you're saying that all of these units need to be sprinklered? Sorry. Okay. Okay.
It's a 13D system. It's a typically used in a home or a multifamily dwelling.
Yes, sir.
But this time he's taking a duplex and turning it this way. So the advantage of this, from what I understand in talking to him, is that each one will have its own water supply, and unlike a large commercial sprinkler system, if there's a problem somewhere in the system, your whole apartment complex, that giant building, would have a problem. In this instance, things would be isolated.
Okay.
That's just something we like to see.
Okay. Thank you.
Addition to my comment is I want them sprinklered. They're not required to be sprinkled as duplexes. And Joe, you're very well aware of that issue, the 13D issue that we have in the city of San Angelo. It's a residential sprinkler system guideline.
Yes.
And presently, we don't have the method to approve that in San Angelo. We have the fire department and we have the plumbing department. Now I'm getting those wrong.
Building department.
Okay, building section department.
Yes, sir.
There's an overlap between those, and there's not a method in place to get those approved yet.
Yes, sir.
So that's what I'm hoping to highlight with this by.
There is a method to get it approved. If it's through a licensed sprinkler company, then it can go through the fire marshal's office.
Correct, but then the plumbing department won't approve it.
Well, the plumbing department doesn't have anything to say with the sprinkler system.
That's correct.
It all depends on how you run it and how you do it.
And therein lies my dilemma. Is I want the whole thing approved.
Right.
And can't have one entity saying they can't approve it because of this. So there is a method for that I don't believe is in place yet. I've had to put alternative check valves in an area that I tried it in because there was no one could approve the whole thing. So I'd like to have that on record that needs to be dealt with.
And a lot of, if you keep it separate, then it can be. But if you put them together,
right. But the economies of scale aren't there if you keep it separate.
You can't.
I mean, you defeat the purpose of why the NFPA designed it this way.
Right.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
Yes. I just wanted to clarify again. I know that sprinkler part is probably important right now, but also on the fence that when you make your motion, this is lot 4A, that these 4 lots and 4A can't have a fence higher than 6.
We can't see what you're marking.
So from here to here,
okay,
this area can be no higher than 6 feet and shall be non-opaque.
Okay. The only thing I'm concerned about, I think the multifamily aspect is great. The density's fine. The fence is, I guess I understand the need for privacy, but an 8-foot fence is pretty aggressive.
Remember that the 8-foot fence is only only back here on the more commercial pieces.
Yes.
The rest of this would not be.
Right.
And
I understand.
Be open, wrought iron type, nice quality fencing.
Okay.
I think it's a real good idea, because that lot is kind of a challenge with that
It is.
tower and.
It is.
I mean, but that's a great idea for that.
All right, anyone wish to make a motion?
I make the motion to approve PD 19-09 as proposed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as proposed by the staff. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Did we need to give the guy the fence in that? Do we need to give the guy the 8-foot fence in that?
His wording of as proposed by staff, it would include Jeff's.
Yeah. Fence is in.
Yeah.
Yes. So 6-0, we lost Mr. Urick during that case. So 6-0 in favor. Z19-17, Russ Street Ministries, public hearing consideration of request for rezoning from the light manufacturing zoning district to the general commercial zoning district, being 2.93 acres located at 801 Russ Street and an unaddressed lot directly north across East Avenue D. Ms. Pascal.
Good morning, Shelley Pascal, planner. This property, as you stated, is being proposed to be rezoned from light manufacturing to general commercial. Basically, what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to pave this vacant lot here, make it a parking lot for Russ Street Ministries. And it is located at 803 Russ Street, is in District 3, Harry Thomas, neighborhood is Fort Concho. The future land use does call for this property to be commercial, and the current zoning is light manufacturing. Here's a couple of photos of the subject property and the vacant lot to the north. And northeast of the subject property is a church, and then there's a residence to the east. I did send out 17 notifications. I received 1 in favor and 0 in opposition. City staff, we are recommending approval and rationale for that approval according to the compatibility with plans and policies. The comp plan does designate this area as commercial. The requested zone change is consistent with this designation. It is consistent with the zoning ordinance. The proposed expansion of the use for community service is not allowed in ML, but it would be allowed in general commercial. Therefore, the lot would be consistent with general commercial standards. This area has a mixed use of heavier commercial, general commercial, and residential, and the use would be compatible with the surrounding areas. It is consistent with the adopted future land use and the existing adjacent mixed use of development. We believe there'd be a little to no adverse impact to the immediate area. This would allow for an existing business to expand and serve the community. This parcel is consistent with the adjoining development in the area. City staff, we do recommend approval of the rezoning from light manufacturing zoning district to general commercial. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff? This is for a parking lot?
That is correct. They will be expanding into this vacant lot here.
Okay. Is there a requirement for a drainage study associated with a parking lot?
I wanted to, if I can address that,
Yes.
when we rewrote the parking section back in May of last year, we had said that a standalone parking lot, even if there's no permit associated, would need a parking lot permit. As
Okay.
part of the parking lot permit, there would be a review of grading and drainage. I don't know if it would be an official drainage study, but we would review it.
Perfect. That'll work. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning. My name is Ed Houston. I'm privileged to serve on the board of Russ Street Ministries and am here to represent our interests. and answer any questions you might have about our request. We started operation as Rush Street Ministry, or as what grew into Rush Street Ministries about 25 years ago out of a school bus that was painted like a Holstein cow. And we called it the Cow, Closet on Wheels. And it was distributing clothing to people who needed clothes. We now have changed a great deal, and we operate essentially the entire block between Avenue D and Highland on Rush Street. And we give out a lot of food, clothes, and household goods. We serve about 40 to 50 families per day, and that adds up to a lot in a year. We have affiliated ourselves with two other entities, one being the Neighbor's Kitchen, that we serve 5 days a week, free meals, free lunches to about 125 people. Also, we are affiliated with Young Life, which is an at-risk youth organization and young moms program. These are all take place underneath our roof, so we provide facilities and property and extend to them the invitation to operate there, and we have that affiliation with them. We have some good neighbors in Fort Concho and in Fort Concho Elementary School, and we have outgrown our ability to have a place for our people to park. And that is the root of our request. We purchased property to the north of Avenue D from the Billy Hanks Ministry, and we have plans to build a parking lot there. During the time in which you were considering closing Avenue D, we met with Bob Bluthart and one of the board members of Fort Concho, and discussed with them our plans and indicated how it would be a benefit to everybody around, including them. The place of the location of the parking lot will be just to the rear of the what's the main building in Fort Concho called? Headquarters building, yep. Be right to the rear of the headquarters building, would be accessible for parking for those many events that occur there throughout the year, as well as other neighborhood people, including the church, which will be across the street from us. We visited with them and indicated to Bob that we have need for some close-up parking for people who are older and less capable of walking. That includes everybody my age and older. We had a good discussion about that and identified an area on Fort Concho property that we proposed to them we consider exchanging. And he reacted well to that, favorably to that, and since has discussed it with his board, and his board also is supportive of that. But irrespective of whether that occurs or not, we plan to build this parking lot and make it a parking lot available to all entities that we deal with and in that particular neighborhood. We see no downsides of it, and we respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Houston. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion or have thoughts?
I make the motion to approve Z19-17 as proposed.
We have a motion and a second to approve as proposed by the staff. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 6-0 in favor. Z 1918 Jacobs Cosa. Public hearing consideration of request for approval of rezoning from general commercial heavy commercial zoning district to the neighborhood commercial zoning district, being 1.307 acres located at 401, 405, and 409 West Avenue Y, 2815 Ben Ficklin Road, and 410 West Avenue Z. Ms. Bailey.
Sherry Bailey again. This came about, Z 1918 came about from an applicant's request. He wanted to rezone 2 of the lots for single-family housing. In looking at the general area, staff was very supportive of that, but we looked at it as an opportunity to perhaps correct what we felt was an issue in the area. So we added the rest of the lots in this block that were zoned CGCH and were incompatible, we felt, with what was existing in the zoning on that, and I'll cover that in just a minute. This is located in District 3, Mr. Thomas's district, and in the neighborhood is Rio Vista. As you can see from the future land use, the entire area was listed as neighborhood center. And when you look at the existing zoning, you see that this area is CGCH, which is a very heavy, intense commercial use. And yet the neighborhood commercial being immediately adjacent to the single-family residential made sense. The applicant's request for his 2 lots, which are these 2 right here, made sense, and so the city joined with the applicant to recommend rezoning the rest of the lots there to the neighborhood commercial, which is in keeping with the future land use. This gives you a sense of what the area looks like. The school is directly across from the property that is being rezoned, and the building down just to the south at one point was an internet cafe area. So the existing uses in the area of residential and small commercial fit with the neighborhood commercial and don't necessarily fit with the CGCH. We sent out 30 notices. We received 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. The school did indicate that they had no opposition whatsoever to the rezoning. In looking at the rationale for approval, which staff is recommending, obviously since we are joining in with the applicant, the comprehensive plan is neighborhood center. This zoning will match that. The proposed rezoning would allow a mix of small scale commercial and would allow residential by conditional use at the present time, and those we feel are compatible. And the existing uses that are normally allowed in CGCH, we do not believe is compatible with the area. The effect on the natural environment will be minimal, if at all. We believe that this meets a community need. More local commercial in this area is something that is recommended by our vision plan, and allowing additional residential to be developed as a conditional use is consistent with what's going on there. And the school dominates the general area, and so they were looking, when they indicated that they were in favor with it, they were looking at not having larger commercial, which would compete in a traffic standpoint in the area, so they are definitely in favor of it. So staff is recommending approval to rezone to neighborhood commercial. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
These, so you had 2 lots that came in asking to be rezoned to neighborhood commercial,
Yes.
neighborhood center. The other 4 lots that you were changing the zoning on, are they aware of that?
Yes, they are. they were notified. I talked to the property owner down here. Excuse me. Property owner there, and they didn't have any problem with it at all.
Okay. So they were asked and not
Yes.
notified?
Mhm. Yes, we have.
Okay.
Are there 4 owners in addition to Jacobs?
There are 3.
3 owners?
Yes,
They've all been notified,
yes, they have.
and they've all agreed to it.
The ones that I have talked, in all honesty, I have talked to 2. I have not talked to 3.
Okay.
Okay.
They were notified with the written notice and have
Yeah.
not expressed any opposition.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions?
I don't think we have any more questions right now, do we? Thank you, Ms. Bailey. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment. We need a motion.
Yeah, personally, the way I feel about it, I understand that letters were sent out telling them their zoning was changing, but they may not have wanted it to change. They may want general heavy commercial on their particular lots, so.
And just to clarify, we're not allowed to split up Jacobs and approve the rezoning of that? Or are we?
Yes, you could
Can do just
approve
the 2
all or
lots.
none, or, I will say that if you notice that one, if you only rezoned the one being requested, there would be a CH lot between the other 2, and that was part of the reason we wanted to include it.
I'm sorry, could you go back? I don't understand what he's saying.
Yeah. And while she's getting to that, I think we would be less likely to recommend it without all of it changing, if that makes sense. So,
Well, I don't think there's any question that the zoning that's proposed is probably better for this area. It's just a matter of property rights and
On zoning, possibly. I don't
making
know.
sure that the owners are aware of what's being done to their property before.
Jerry, can you point to the
Done.
2 which you have spoken to?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. I spoke to the property owner here and here.
Got it.
And Jacobs was requesting for which 2 lots?
These 2.
Okay, so there's still 2 that have not been,
just this one is the only one.
This is one owner, actually 2 owners on these 3 lots.
okay.
2 of
So
them.
which owner, which lots have not consented?
The only one that I'm aware, that I was not able to talk to is this lot.
Number 3.
Number 3, I'm sorry.
So but they received the letter, right?
Oh, absolutely, and there was a sign, there
And you
was,
said you door knocked, right?
So there's, it's a vacant
yeah,
lot.
it's a vacant piece of property.
So, but you spoke to 2 other ones, right?
yes,
So
when
how
I
did you
was-
speak to them and not the other one?
When I was out, they came and talked to me. One
Gotcha.
called me on the phone, and when I was out, they came and talked to me. We talked a long time about what they wanted to do with the property and what their proposal is, and they were very happy with the CN.
The only one staff has not spoken to is the vacant
lot.
parcel that's in the middle.
Right. Well, we sent the letter like we typically do.
And we put up a sign.
Sure. Sign went up, letter went out. They didn't write you back. They didn't call you back. They
Nobody
didn't tell
called
you it was
me.
a terrible
No.
idea. They didn't tell you it was a good idea,
Right,
right? They were notified.
yes,
Same address that they probably pay their property taxes with, right?
that's,
There you go. They can pay their property taxes. They're reading their mail, and seems like we notified them. Y'all think we didn't notify them?
I'm questioning changing the zoning.
They didn't. The city has told them what the intention
Told
is.
them is the thing, yeah, that's
And-
where I have an issue, being told something.
They didn't write back or call back, or they're not here today to say, hey, we absolutely do not like this idea. They've had ample opportunity. If they don't like this, they've had ample opportunity to
Make a
let us
motion.
know prior to today.
What would they be able to do if we left that one as it is. I mean, you wouldn't really be able to do anything with it anyway, as that way.
Well, typically, the types of things that would be allowed in the CH zoning, the heavy commercial, vehicle repair, truck
Right.
repair kinds of things probably wouldn't fit on that lot. That was part of our
Too
thinking,
small.
is that everything that's been occurring historically in that area it fits more with the neighborhood commercial. In fact, there are probably some things they couldn't do on the property without the
Right.
rezoning.
I think even if they, for some reason, have no idea what's going on right now with this property, they will probably be better off if this thing passes.
All right. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So that is 4-2 in favor. The Master Thoroughfare Plan Amendments. Master Thoroughfare Plan Amendment, City of San Angelo, request for amending the major thoroughfare plan component of the San Angelo Comprehensive Plan in the area south of Pulliam Street, east of Bell Street, west of Loop 306, north of the Concho River. Ms. Bucher.
Okay, we'll move on to the Master Thoroughfare Plan Amendment. Hillary Bucher, Planning Manager. We're looking at approximately 1,000 acres here. It's a fairly large chunk of land. So you'll see Pulliam here to the north, the loop on the east side. Bell Street would actually be right here. We're a little bit further east than that, and then the river delineated on the bottom. So it is in SMD number 4, Lucy Gonzalez's district, in the Fort Concho East neighborhood. There's a couple of pieces of this, and we'll go through them individually. So the future land use is split up between commercial, neighborhood, open space. There's a couple of different areas here. The zoning has multiple zonings: CG, RM1, RS1, ML. There is actually a PD down in this corner. So it's a couple different zonings in this area. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the north-south collector, which would be the extension of Smith Boulevard. Currently, this would be Smith Boulevard, but yet Smith Boulevard comes in here. So the proposed alignment would just shift it over to align with the current Smith Boulevard, making it one consecutive north-south collector. The east-west collector would actually be the extension of Harris Avenue. It's about 1.33 miles. Currently, you can see the yellow. The yellow is what is proposed to be removed. It kind of makes its way through here. We're minorly changing that. It'll come to Smith and then split off. This piece right here could be renamed if they decided to, since it now is split. But again, it still allows that functionality of that continuing east-west motion.
Is the yellow what's,
The yellow is being removed.
Okay.
And the new blue and red would be what is proposed. So not huge deviations from what was already there. We're just kind of aligning them with the proposed development of this area.
the east-west collector road, Harris, extension of Harris Avenue?
So Harris would come in over here.
Right.
And then it kind of winds around, and we're just aligning it a little bit differently.
So why is there a jog in that intersection instead of
There is
the
a approved
continuous street?
preliminary plat for this area that was done in '95. The subsequent master thoroughfare plans came after, so I'm not sure why the master thoroughfare plan did not match the approved preliminary plat. But we're starting to see some movement in this area, so we are basically lining it up with what was approved in '95. So that jog is in there. Also, as well, it coordinates with, if you've ever been out to Quicksand, these jogs actually go between the different fairways. So we're not splitting up the middle of a fairway, we're in between a green and a tee box.
Okay.
Next one we'll talk about is the east-west arterial. At one point in this plan's history, it was an extension of Rio Concho Drive. The city has amended that since, so it's actually now an extension of Roosevelt. So you'll see Roosevelt over here coming from Bell. And then again, some minor jogs. The only major thing we're changing here is at one point it came up here and connected. The proposed alignment would actually come down and meet here. As well, there were a couple of southern minor collectors. Those have been removed. You can see that they would have hit about right where the new arterial is proposed. So we're just removing those altogether and not replacing those. That will be proposed in the approved preliminary plat. That's a residential neighborhood, so we didn't think that collectors were necessary with that amount of homes in that area. The only other thing we're changing is the parkway, which is Rio Concho Drive. We're trying to discourage through traffic through that park. It's a very busy park with a lot of pedestrian movement. So currently it was set to come out and meet up with that arterial at kind of a strange angle. We are just taking it and teeing it up where it'll have an intersection. You could choose to go into the park, but it wouldn't be seen as a through street. So staff is recommending approval of this master thoroughfare plan amendment. Again, this was brought on by the approved preliminary plat and us lining up the thoroughfare plan to go with that. So we are trying to encourage development in this area.
Could you go back to the middle slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
So blue and red is what we would approve or what's proposed. Yellow is
Being removed.
being removed.
Yes, sir. Or I guess relocated, actually,
Yeah.
in most cases. It might have helped to have the aerial on here, but when I zoomed out to this scale, the aerial disappeared on my program. So it'd be really great to show you through the fairways. I mean, this really works with the existing golf course, and they are proposing to potentially add on and add another 9 holes. So this would work well with their proposed expansion.
What's the western boundary of the golf course? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, so the property that's owned currently is like this.
All of that is the golf course.
Well, it's split up with a couple of different, the golf course, you can see these kind of squiggly lines in here. This is actually the golf course as it sits. So in between those possibly could be future development.
Right.
Where Roosevelt starts and kind of goes around, and then there's just past that, or past Rio Concho Drive, there's a blue, what is that street?
It's actually a green parkway, and it's just the yellow. So let me go forward one other street. So this area right here is about what we're about to zoom in on.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong way. So we've zoomed in on it here. So this old parkway went this way. What we're proposing is to tee it in at that intersection. So it was a green road with yellow underneath it. It makes it seem blue for sure.
Up and there's another blue. Is that yellow?
Yes, ma'am. That's yellow to be removed. Those were minor collectors, and there's not because of. Let me go back one more slide. Because of the way this Roosevelt now comes in here, this is a very small residential area, so a collector was not necessary.
Right. Above that is where I'm talking.
Okay, so this, so this blue line here,
No. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so that blue line is what was relocated here. It just now kind of curves around and hits back with this arterial. So at the old plan, it would have come here and the arterial would have come here. With the new plan, we're going to come around here and hit the arterial here. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Open this up for public comment.
Morning, Russell with SKG Engineering for this one, single member district number 4. As Hillary, she told it and covered it very well. There's some activity going on. They're looking at putting in another 9 in the back, doing an extension of Smith pretty quickly, and building a new clubhouse that would tie into this new 9 and reorientate how you play this. And so really the plan is we get this work through. We'll hopefully be coming to you next year, not very far away. Next year is so with a plat, a final plat, pulling out and proposing part of Smith and the area for the clubhouse. So this is kind of that first step to make the approved preliminary plat kind of reconcile with the master thoroughfare plan, and the developers are, because of the way the golf course lays out and the way it fits between the tees and greens, they want to stick with that preliminary plat for the most part. You know, we're reconfiguring some lot sizes a little bit, but in general, we want to conform with that. So this really helps us get there and allows us to keep moving forward. So be happy to answer any other questions.
No questions. Thank you, Russell. All right, anyone else? I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the staff's proposed changes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So 6-0. All right, director's report.
Don't have anything to add for you today unless you have questions for staff.
No questions? All right. Future meeting and agenda announcements. Next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. Monday, January 27th, 2020. Council Chambers, the McNeese Convention Center at 501 Rio Concho Drive. Adjournment. Anyone like to make a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is 11:01.
Just be aware, that's the fourth Monday in January, just so everybody knows, there's a holiday, the third one,